that the great joust to settle the truth would have brought an end to speculation. Clearly King Richard had not known who to believe in the argument that sprang up between his cousin Harry Bolingbroke and Thomas Mowbray, hereditary Earl Marshal of England. Before he led the royal army to Ireland, he tried to settle the thing. Accusation and counter-accusation flew back and forth. Gauges were hurled down. Neither Bolingbroke nor Mowbray would accept blame for the accusations being touted. So the king, friend and contemporary of both men, settled the matter as best he could by clearing them both out. Exile, the best solution. Give them time to cool their heels in foreign courts. With both of them out of the way, he must have felt he had established a cordon of safety from assassins if what they said had a grain of truth in it. He probably felt he had given fair warning to others not to threaten him in like manner. Yet it settled nothing. Another rumour circulated as soon as the king himself was absent. Who started it, no one knew, but it caught hold and went like this. It was the king himself who had given the order to have his troublesome uncle put out of the way. The king. His uncle, the Duke of Gloucester. The Duke, the rumour went, could not have died from natural causes. It passed all belief. A hale and hearty fighting man in his prime, dying for no good reason, except that he was cooped up under Mowbray's supervision in a cell at Calais. Impossible. And, the rumour-mongers continued, look what happened to Gloucester's ally, the Earl of Arundel, lured to his death by King Richard, who, to be fair, had resorted to the law to make sure the man was punished for his treason. And it was treason, no doubt about that, came the rejoinder. The conspirators had dined at Arundel's castle to discuss their grievances, and later it was Bolingbroke himself who told his father what Mowbray had said, and Mowbray, calling Bolingbroke a liar to his face, vowed that it was Bolingbroke all along. And then came the joust that never was, followed by exile. What was sure, the cynics pointed out, was that by getting rid of his warlord uncle Gloucester, the fox, the way was also cleared for young Bolingbroke's advancement. What about that? When there was no answer, they pressed the point. Who, they asked, stood between Bolingbroke and the throne? Apart from his cousin King Richard, of course, there was only the Mortimer child whom nobody reckoned, and, added with a knowing wink, the Duke of Gloucester, a foxy prince of the blood, still young enough to harbour ambitions to be king. It was obvious what a hopeful nephew would do, they said. He would get his uncle with the annoyingly similar ambition out of the way. Quick sharp! The joust to prove the truth of these suspicions was announced. Crowds flocked to the jousting ground at Coventry to see how God in his wisdom would arrange things. The jousters accoutred and helmed, steeds pawing the raw earth, four hearts beating and eager to engage. And then what? King Richard calls a halt. One of the jailers was dragged over from Calais and forced to take the blame for Gloucester's death. Shouting his innocence and that all he did was hold the cell door, he was quickly hanged after a perfunctory trial. But the rumours persisted. Fuel to the fire, enter Thomas Arundel, Archbishop of Canterbury. Veiled accusations thundered from his Canterbury pulpit, warning of hell, fire, and the eternal damnation to befall any who did not side with him. When his brother, the Earl, met the executioner, he himself fled into exile, despite the fact that, as Archbishop, nobody would touch him. At least, with King Richard on the throne, it was unthinkable that anyone would deal physical harm to an archbishop. They were not living in the bad old days of martyred Becket. Were they? But that was then. 3 enemies of the king in exile. Cousin Bolingbroke, his friend Mowbray,